My arms were stretched high above me. I couldn't see. I couldn't speak. All I could do was listen. 2 sets of footsteps. Slow, measured, getting closer. My breath caught somewhere in my chest, trapped between fear and something far more dangerous. Anticipation, and the truth. I didn't know what they were going to do next, but a part of me needed to find out before we go any further. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because the stories I share, they don't just stay with you, they stay inside you. This one came out faster than I expected. Maybe because I couldn't hold it in any longer. So tell me when we're done. Did it hit you the way it hit me? Let's begin. I had already said yes, and once that word left my lips, there was no taking it back. The room reflected that decision. Everything was intentional, the sheets fresh, untouched, the lighting dim, but warm enough to soften every edge. Candles flickered along the walls, their glow dancing like quiet secrets across the space I had prepared. Every detail mattered, every detail had been chosen, and still, I kept adjusting things, straightening pillows that were already straight, wiping surfaces that didn't need cleaning, running my hands over objects just to feel something steady beneath my fingertips, anything to keep myself from thinking too much, because if I stopped moving, I might change my mind. I walked toward the mirror again, one last look. The black lace clung to me differently than anything I'd worn before, not to hide, not to protect, but to reveal, soft, intentional, honest. I turned slightly, checked the back, then the front. Again, there was no pretending. Tonight, that was the whole point. My heart wasn't just beating, it was racing, not from fear alone, but from something sharper, something tangled between anxiety and desire, pulling tighter with every breath. I placed my fingers along my collarbone and exhaled slowly, trying to steady myself, but it didn't work because every inch of my body felt awake. The air against my skin felt colder, sharper, more real. Even the smallest movement sent a ripple through me. I sat down, then immediately stood again. Stillness didn't feel safe, not tonight. The door remained closed, locked, silent, but I knew they were coming, both of them. That had been the agreement. For a moment, I considered stopping it, reaching for my phone, typing a message, ending it before it even began. And I almost did, almost, but beneath the nerves, beneath the uncertainty, there was something else, something stronger. I wanted this, not part of it, not pieces of it, all of it, everything I had never allowed myself to feel, everything I had pushed away, everything I had pretended I didn't need. Tonight wasn't about control. It was about letting go. Then the sound, 3 slow knocks, not rushed, not hesitant. Certain. It was time. When the door opened, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Their presence filled the room before words ever could. One of them stepped forward, tall, controlled, unshaken, every movement deliberate. He didn't ask if I was ready, and somehow that made my breath catch even harder, because something in the way he carried himself said it didn't matter. He stopped just inches away, close enough that I could sense the shift in the air around me, close enough that I caught the faint scent of leather and something deeper beneath it. My pulse stumbled, then, without warning, darkness, a soft cover slid over my eyes, cutting off the world instantly. The light vanished, and everything else became louder. My breathing, their footsteps, the subtle shift of fabric, the quiet closing of the door behind me, and then silence, not empty, but heavy, thick with awareness. I could feel him behind me now, not touching, just there, close enough that the space between us felt charged. Then his arm moved around my waist, firm, grounding, not rough, but not gentle either. I froze, not because I wanted to pull away, but because I didn't. He adjusted me, slightly at first, turning my body as if I wasn't the one in control anymore, and I let him. Every small movement sent a quiet shock through me. when he shifted my stance, when he guided my legs, when he positioned me exactly where he wanted me. I didn't resist. I couldn't, without sight. Everything else intensified. The sound of his breath, the subtle pressure of his hands, the quiet authority in every movement. I was aware of everything, and at the same time, I wasn't thinking at all. I didn't need to see. That was the first thing I realized, because somehow, losing my sight didn't make me feel less aware. It made everything sharper. Every breath sounded louder in my ears. Every shift in the room felt heavier. Even the silence had weight. Behind me, he moved again, slow, controlled, intentional. His hand tightened slightly at my waist, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind me of something I was starting to understand more clearly with every second that passed. I wasn't leading this anymore, and strangely, that didn't scare me the way I thought it would. It grounded me. My shoulders tensed instinctively as he adjusted my stance again, guiding me with quiet certainty. There were no instructions, no questions, no hesitation, just presence. And then another shift, the second set of footsteps, closer, now, heavier, different. I felt it before I fully processed it, that subtle change in the air, the way the space around me seemed to tighten just slightly. Two people, two energies, completely different. My breath faltered, not from panic, but from the overwhelming awareness of being right in the middle of something I could no longer predict. A hand reached for my wrist. Firm, steady, unwavering. It lifted slowly, guiding my arm upward until I felt the stretch settle deep into my shoulders. Then, the other wrist followed, held, not painfully, but undeniably. I swallowed hard. The instinct to speak rose in my chest, but I stopped it, because this wasn't about breaking the silence. It was about feeling everything inside it. The second presence moved closer, not rushed, not uncertain, certain. Every movement felt measured, like nothing here was accidental. I tried to focus on my breathing, in, out, slow, controlled, but it didn't stay steady for long, because the moment both of them were close, really close, something shifted inside me. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was intensity, the kind that builds slowly, quietly, until suddenly it's all you can feel. I became aware of every detail, the space between breaths, the faint movement of air when someone shifted, the subtle tension in my own body as I tried to stay still, and the strangest part, I didn't want to pull away, even as my heart raced faster, even as my thoughts started slipping out of order, even as I realized just how completely I had stepped into something unknown. I stayed, because I had chosen this, and now, there was no halfway point, only forward. Time didn't move normally after that. It stretched, moments felt longer than they should, every second carried more weight than the last. I lost track of what came first, a shift in position, a tightening grip, a step closer. It all blurred together into one continuous experience, not chaotic, but overwhelming in a way that made thinking impossible. And maybe that was the point, because the less I thought, the more I felt, and the more I felt, the harder it became to hold onto anything else. My balance wavered slightly, not enough to fall, but enough to remind me that I wasn't as steady as I had been before. A hand steadied me, instantly, firm, reliable. I exhaled sharply, didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath. Everything inside me felt heightened now, every nerve, every reaction, every flicker of awareness. And yet, there was also something else, something quieter, a strange sense of trust, not because I understood what was happening, but because I didn't need to. That was the moment it changed, not the situation, not the setting, me. I stopped resisting the unknown, stopped trying to anticipate what would happen next, stopped holding on to control I didn't actually have anymore, and instead, I let myself exist inside the moment, completely, fully, without Interruption, the tension didn't disappear. It deepened, but it wasn't overwhelming in the same way anymore. It became something else, something focused, something consuming, something I didn't want to end. At some point, I stopped trying to understand what was happening, not because it didn't matter, but because thinking had become impossible. Everything had narrowed down to one thing: the moment, not the past, not what I had agreed to, not even what might come next. Just this. My breathing slowed, but it wasn't calm. It was controlled, intentional, like my body had learned something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. The tension in my shoulders remained, my arms still held high, my balance still uncertain. But inside, something shifted. The fear didn't disappear. It changed. It became awareness. I could still feel them, both of them, not just where they were but how they moved. One steady, grounded, precise, the other heavier, slower, unpredictable. Two completely different presences, and somehow, I had stopped trying to separate them, because it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what they had pulled out of me, or maybe what I had finally allowed myself to feel. The silence returned, but it wasn't the same silence from before. This one wasn't heavy. It wasn't suffocating. It was full of everything that had just happened. Every breath, every second, every moment where I thought I might lose control and didn't. Or maybe did. My fingers twitched slightly, the first small movement I had made on my own in what felt like forever. And that's when I realized something that stayed with me long after that night ended. I wasn't trapped. I had never been. I had chosen to step into that space, to let go, to stop holding everything together for once. And in doing that, I had discovered something I didn't expect. Strength, not the kind that comes from control, not the kind that comes from always being in charge, but the kind that comes from letting yourself be vulnerable and not breaking. Slowly, carefully, the tension around me began to fade. The presence shifted, not gone, just different, distant, grounded again. My arms were released, not suddenly, not carelessly, but with the same quiet control they had been held with. The feeling rushed back into them slowly, a dull ache spreading through my muscles as I lowered them. I didn't move right away, didn't speak, didn't even try to take the cover off my eyes, because part of me wasn't ready for it to end. That's the truth no one talks about. Sometimes it's not the intensity that stays with you, it's the silence after, the moment where everything settles, and you're left alone with what you felt. Eventually, the darkness lifted, light returned slowly, softly, almost like it was giving me time to adjust. The room looked the same, the candles still flickered, the sheets were still smooth, everything exactly where I had left it. And yet, nothing felt the same. Because I wasn't the same, I looked at my reflection again. The same mirror, the same lace, the same person standing there, but different, quieter, stronger, more aware, not of them, not of what happened, but of myself. And that was the part I hadn't expected. That was the part that stayed. So let me ask you something. Have you ever stepped into a moment, not knowing exactly what would happen but knowing it would change you? Did you hesitate? Or did you let it happen? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story stayed with you, even a little, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next one might hit even deeper. Thanks for watching.